I'll be honest, Yuri Boguslavsky, what your name is. Um, I had let any animosity towards you go beyond the fact that you're so far below any type of stature that I have in society and in any capacity. Beyond that, I'm trying to be on a better path and be a better person. But after hearing the recent comments that you made about Hispanic people, particularly the people that support you, especially considering that the woman that you claim to love is Latina. Her last name is Garcia, right? And you have the audacity to speak this way about Hispanic people. It's back up. It's on site. Take it how you want it. No money on the table. All money on the table. I don't give a. You need to get your out of California. This is the Latinos people land, bro. You feel me? This is Mexican people's land, fool. The fuck is you talking about? Take your back to Russia, ho. I don't give a f. You get chipped on the way by the, what they call, you feel me? The Ukrainian with you belong over there dealing with that. How dare you?
There comes a moment in public life when silence stops being maturity and starts looking like permission. That moment doesn't arrive politely. It crashes in, loud and unwelcome, usually carried on the back of disrespect that crosses not just personal lines, but communal ones. When language is weaponized against a people, when identity is treated like a punchline, when culture is reduced to a caricature for clicks and clout, the response is no longer about ego or old workplace grudges. It becomes about dignity. What's unfolding here is not a random flare-up or a petty online squabble. It's a reckoning with the idea that proximity to a platform somehow grants immunity from accountability. It's the belief that because someone once stood near the machinery of influence, they are free to spit downward without consequence. That belief collapses the moment the people being spoken about decide they've heard enough. Respect is not a favor granted by status. It is a baseline obligation. And when that baseline is violated, especially by someone who has benefited from the labor, loyalty, and audience of the very community they're mocking, the reaction is never going to be polite, academic, or softly worded. It's going to be raw, emotional, and uncompromising because it comes from a place deeper than branding or optics. It comes from history. California, like many places built on migration, carries layered stories in its soil. Families, cultures, and identities didn't arrive as accessories, they arrived as foundations. To dismiss or belittle those identities is to misunderstand where you are, who built the room you're standing in, and why your voice was ever amplified there in the first place. That kind of ignorance isn't just offensive, it's self-disqualifying. What sharpens the outrage is hypocrisy. There's a special kind of insult when someone publicly disrespects a community while privately benefiting from intimacy with it. When admiration is convenient behind closed doors, but contempt spills out in public, the contradiction doesn't go unnoticed. It reads as opportunism at best and cowardice at worst. People don't just hear the words, they hear the betrayal behind them. This isn't about nationalism or gatekeeping geography. It's about acknowledgement, about recognizing that cultures are not props for jokes, nor shields you can hide behind when criticism arrives. The anger expressed here is not abstract. It's personal, familial, ancestral. Names carry lineage. Languages carry memory. And when those are mocked, it's not one person being insulted, it's generations being dismissed. There's also a deeper frustration aimed at the ecosystem that enables this behavior. Platforms love chaos when it's profitable. They reward provocation and then act surprised when the provoked respond with fire. But outrage doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's cultivated by a media environment that confuses attention with value and controversy with relevance. When people feel unheard long enough, they stop explaining and start declaring. The defense being mounted is not elegant, but it is intentional. It rejects the idea that respectability politics should govern responses to disrespect. It refuses to sanitize anger for the comfort of observers who aren't affected by the insult. And while the language may be abrasive, the core message is simple. You don't get to insult a people and then hide behind irony, ignorance, or past association. There's also an unspoken line being drawn about loyalty and memory. Workplaces come and go, bosses change, titles disappear. But how you treated people when you had access is what follows you. Burning bridges isn't just about conflict, it's about how loudly you announced that you didn't understand the bridge mattered in the first place. When former affiliations turn into weapons, don't be shocked when the response is scorched earth rhetoric rather than corporate politeness. At its heart, this confrontation is about reclaiming narrative control, about saying that communities will no longer be spoken about as if they are absent, passive, or grateful for crumbs of visibility. They are present, they are listening, and they are done being reduced to stereotypes by people who confuse volume with authority. Anger, when stripped of caricature, is often grief wearing armor. Grief that respect wasn't automatic. Grief that shared spaces weren't actually shared in spirit. Grief that someone close enough to know better chose to speak worse. And while anger doesn't need to be celebrated, it does need to be understood, because it didn't start with the response. It started with the disrespect. This moment is less about winning an argument and more about drawing a boundary so clear it can't be misread. You don't get to punch down and then complain about the echo. You don't get to insult a culture and then act shocked when the culture answers back. And you don't get to rewrite yourself as misunderstood when the words were plain, public, and loaded. In the end, what's being demanded isn't fear or submission. It's accountability. A recognition that words have weight, histories have depth, and communities are not abstract targets. They are real-rooted and capable of responding loudly when disrespected. The audience laughter in these situations often comes from relief. Someone else is getting roasted, so they don't have to think about the machinery behind the joke. But peel it back and what you see is a working performer navigating a system that rewards overextension and then laughs when you burn out. Defending yourself isn't fragile, it's necessary maintenance. What makes this whole exchange resonate is how familiar it feels. Anyone who's ever been told they didn't do enough by someone who wasn't there recognizes the flavor immediately. Anyone who's ever had their effort reduced to a punchline knows how quickly humor can become dismissal. The response then isn't about ego. It's about dignity. In the end, the defense isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It's simply the assertion that effort happened, intention mattered, and circumstances exist. That comedy doesn't erase reality. It sits on top of it. And if the joke requires flattening someone's reality to work, then maybe the laugh was borrowed against someone else's expense. The real punchline, if there is one, is that boundaries don't ruin comedy. They expose who is relying on the absence of them. And in a culture that thrives on access, the most radical thing a performer can sometimes do is say, without apology, that the show ended, the flight was waiting, and that doesn't make the work any less real. There is a peculiar sickness that visits success once it grows tall enough to cast shade. It's not jealousy exactly, though jealousy rides shotgun. It's not nostalgia either, though the past is the weapon of choice. It's that disease where people begin to remember themselves as the author of someone else's miracle. History, once written in real time, becomes vulnerable when rewritten by the loudest voice with the longest memory and the shortest respect for facts.